All right, people of YouTube, this is the December progress update on the Mark IV Factory 5 Roadster / Cobra replica, even though Ford has the word Cobra under their wraps, so you can't technically call it that. But going forward, this is a Cobra. Anywho, aside from all the inventory and the delivery and getting the body rigged up to the ceiling of my garage because I have nowhere else to put it, it actually works pretty good. I made some, per recommendation of some of the people on the Factory 5 forum, they said, hang the body by lumber. Don't hang it by the straps because it could smush the sides together and deform the fiberglass. So it's resting on the 2x3s that are screwed into the trusses of my garage. And then I just got that ratchet strap there for safety and to lower it when I'm finally ready to put the body on. I also kind of rigged up this platform here hanging from the lumber, the 2x3s, that's got all the aluminum panels in it. And part of the bodywork, it's like 6 feet off the ground, so I can't reach anymore. But there's the hood and the doors and the trunk are up there too. So it's all out of the way, nice and stored, so I don't have to trip over it or find anywhere special to put it. And lizards aren't gonna make a home in it outside, and sun damage and all that other crap. Anywho, so first thing I did, control arms, front suspension, front brakes. Front brake rotors are on POL. Steering rack, I went with the manual one because that's OG for the Cobra. Also did the steering shafts. I forget what they're called. Anywho, it's on. And I don't know why people make such a big damn deal about their steering wheel being cocked when the tires are straight. This is a cakewalk. You just set it so it's in the middle of the rotations. You know, this is a 3-turn steering rack, so I went back a turn and a half. That's up, and then you just line these things straight. Line the spindle straight. No big deal. You tweak it in alignment, just like any other alignment. Screw that in or out, and that moves this way and that. No big deal. Anywho, also got the footbox installed. This was pretty fun. I think the hardest part of it was making sure this bar here, this is called a balance rod. Let me get it in a little better angle. Basically, the brakes work by putting more leverage on the front master cylinder than the rear master cylinder to balance like 70%, 30% for normal braking performance. You can move this bar in and out. There's a pivot in here that slides back and forth. So if you put the pivot further to this side, this master cylinder gets more leverage. So that's the front master cylinder, which makes sense. I'm going to start the rear brakes and the reservoir probably today, this week. I also just kind of tossed the throttle pedal on there, but it's not really doing anything. Then on the back end, the axle. I still got it apart because I wanted to rebuild it. The clutches inside the limited slip were narrower than spec, so I got a new clutch pack. Ultimately though, also the axle needed a paint job too. I wire wheeled it really well. Went with a just Rust-Oleum primer and a satin black paint job. And then I assembled it. As you can see, I got everything ripped out. I got to change the seals and the bearings for the axles as well, although the axles were fine. This is an SN95 axle, so it's a little bit wider. It's only 3/4 of an inch wider than the Fox body axle because it has the gears it's got those sensor gears for ABS. That's fine for me. Just keep in mind that when it comes to backspacing on wheels. But it's all installed. Control arms, everything. Good to go. I like them coilovers. They're pretty solid. Kind of got screwed by Factory 5. I had to make these spacers here and on the bottom. As you can see, I just drilled out some 1/2-inch nuts and used some washers for spacers. They weren't even in my kit. They weren't even in the bill of materials for each box that it came in, and I didn't want to make a thing out of it because I have a mill and I know how to use it. So I made spacers, no big deal. Anywho, that's January, that's December. Oh, and I got the Firewall on, or the Firewall. That was the next step. So I'm going to start on brakes, brake lines, and get plug along. Apparently I can start doing cockpit aluminum too, but I want to make sure the brake lines are in, and eventually, another reason that the differential is all marred up is because when I was pounding out the pinion, I used a brass mallet, but I deformed the threads. So I'm waiting for a 3/4 by 20 tap and die set from somebody on eBay so I can clean up the threads and reuse the pinion, because it's a 327. That's the ratio I wanted. And well, I don't want to spend $150 if I don't have to, so I can just clean up the threads and use the tap to clean up the nut, and then I can install everything. Most of the bearings are going to be reused, but I did put a new race and bearing in the front because when I was pounding that sucker out, I probably killed it. So anyway, 131,000 miles on that axle. It probably could use a few new parts. So that's the latest. Sorry, this isn't very short attention span, but hit me up with questions if you want. Later.